The stars were trembling long before humanity realized it. Across the spiral arms of the Marethi galaxy, empires sharpened their fleets, charging weapons that could shatter moons. Old rivalries awakened like ancient beasts stirred by the scent of fear. Diplomats whispered in cold corridors, generals carved lines on star maps, and every race, from crystalline beings to storm dwellers, prepared for a war that promised to end millions of years of civilization. The Council of Many Suns had failed, its chambers filled with accusations rather than solutions. And in the silence between the stars, an ancient prophecy resurfaced, speaking of a voice unlike any other, a voice that could quench the fire of countless suns. To most species, the idea of a voice ending a war was laughable. But desperation makes believers of skeptics. And so their attention turned, reluctantly, toward the small blue world on the edge of an inconspicuous arm, Earth. On Earth, humanity had no idea it was being watched. Yet one night, without warning, a shimmering portal opened over the Pacific Ocean, rippling like a silver tear in reality. Out stepped an envoy of beings woven from bioluminescent strands of light, the Lyrians, the keepers of sound and harmony across the galaxy. They had come for one thing, a human with the power to soothe. They searched cities, deserts, forests, and coasts, listening for a voice with emotional resonance strong enough to touch the hearts of warlords and kings. And they found her in the simplest of places, a small hospital in Lahore, where a young woman named Myra, barely 22, sang lullabies to premature infants in the neonatal ward. She didn't know her voice carried frequencies that reached beyond biology, touching the emotional spectrums that most species considered myth. Her lullabies had once calmed a violent patient, soothed animals during storms, and inexplicably made crying Barbies fall silent the moment she hummed. She sang not for applause, but because the world needed softness. And the galaxy, though she didn't know it, needed her even more. When the Lyrians appeared in the ward, no one else perceived them. To human eyes, they were just flickers in the fluorescent bulbs, whispers mistaken for air conditioning hum. But Myra felt them, heard them, in a way even they did not expect. Their voices vibrated inside her bones, like a choir echoing from the other side of a dream. "We mean no harm, Myra of Earth," they told her, their words blooming like ripples in water. "You carry a gift that does not belong to one world, but to many." She stood frozen, her hand still resting on the tiny infant she had been lulling to sleep. "What gift?" she whispered, though the question trembled in her throat. "Your voice," they answered. "Your lullabies contain harmonic structures capable of reaching minds across species and dimensions." "That sounds impossible," Myra murmured, though part of her had always wondered why her songs touched people so deeply. "It is rare but not impossible," the Lyrians replied, "and now it is needed." They showed her visions of the galaxy at war, fleets on collision paths, suns darkening under weapons forged from collapsing stars. Myra saw children of alien worlds crying as their skis turned red, soldiers leaving families behind, leaders drowning in fear disguised as power. Her heart ached, as any healer's heart would. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. "Sing," the Lyrians said simply, "but not here." A doorway opened, shimmering with soft luminous threads. Myra looked once more at the infants in the ward, sleeping peacefully, and took a deep breath. "All right," she said, "take me where I'm needed." Myra's first steps into the Lyrian starship were like stepping into a living cathedral of sound. Resonant crystals floated in spirals, glowing softly as if responding to her heartbeat. The ship hummed around her, full of gentle chords that shaped its corridors and chambers. She felt strangely safe, as though the vessel itself welcomed her. The Lyrians taught her about harmonic diplomacy, how music functioned as language for species without words, and emotion for species without faces. They guided her voice through exercises that bent light and vibration. Sometimes, her songs created streams of color that danced like auroras inside the ship. Sometimes they built warmth so deep that even the cold-blooded species aboard felt it. But there were moments of fear too, moments when Myra wondered if her voice could truly stop a galactic war. Courage is not the absence of fear, the Lyrians reminded her, but the choice to sing anyway. After weeks of travel, they reached the Council of Many Suns, the largest gathering of interstellar leaders in recorded history. Massive floating chambers orbited a serene golden star, and within them sat countless beings, each more strange and wondrous than the last. Some towered like molten rock giants, others shimmered like liquid metal, and some existed only as swirling clouds of electric particles. They all fell silent when Myra stepped into the center platform. A human, small and fragile compared to the titans around her. A girl asked to calm a galaxy. A heartbeat of stillness filled the chamber. Then she breathed in and sang. Her voice drifted softly at first, a lullaby of Earth, one her mother had sung to her as a child. Notes wrapped in tenderness, woven with memories of safety, belonging, and the warmth of home. The sound expanded, shifting into harmonics the Lyrians had taught her, carrying emotions that transcended biology. Warriors who had never known fear felt tears forming. Leaders accustomed to power felt humility wash over them. Entire species experienced comfort for the first time. And when she reached the final note, the chamber glowed with shared stillness. A peace so profound that even the golden star outside seemed to pulse more gently. But peace is never as simple as a single moment. And not all hearts were open to her song. Among the council sat the Vorgath Dominion, a species carved from living obsidian and haunted by ancestral pain. To them, softness was weakness, and lullabies were echoes of vulnerability they had buried centuries ago. Their warlord, Karos, rose from his seat, towering over the assembly like a storm given form. "Pretty voice," he growled, "but it will not stop what has already begun." He slammed his staff, unleashing a shockwave of dark resonance that shattered the tranquil mood. Some species recoiled, others trembled, and the chamber erupted into chaotic whispers. Myra felt the echo of his vibrations strike her chest, cold and heavy. The lullaby inside her dimmed under its shadow. "This galaxy is built on strength," Karos thundered, "not lullabies sung by fragile creatures." The Lyrians stepped forward, forming a protective circle around Myra, but she gently touched one of their arms. "No," she whispered, "let me answer." She stepped toward Karos, her legs trembling but her eyes steady. "You think lullabies are weakness," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber, "but lullabies are what keep children alive in the dark. They are the first thing all sentient beings hear, even before they know words. They are the promise that fear can be softened. They are the oldest act of defiance against despair." Karos hesitated, the obsidian lines on his face flickering. Myra could sense the truth. Even warlords were once children. Even monsters were taught to sleep. She lifted her voice again, but this time it was not a lullaby of peace. It was a lullaby of strength, born from the pain she felt in Karos's people. A lullaby that acknowledged fear, yet refused to kneel before it. A lullaby shaped like a hand reaching into darkness and saying, "You are not alone." The chamber vibrated as her voice intertwined with Karos's dark resonance. Softness meeting hardness, light meeting shadow. Bit by bit, his vibrations softened. The darkness unwound, and the warlord bowed his head. Just slightly, but enough. What followed was not immediate peace, but the beginning of understanding. The council agreed to cease all pre-war operations, enter negotiations, and explore harmonic resolution guided by the Lyrians. Myra became an ambassador of lullabies, traveling star systems, calming riots, comforting grieving planets, singing to species who had never known tenderness. And the galaxy, once trembling on the brink of destruction, slowly learned how to breathe again. Her voice became a universal symbol, proof that gentleness could move empires, proof that music transcended the boundaries of form and flesh, proof that sometimes the smallest voice carried the greatest strength. When Myra finally returned to Earth, months later in galactic time, but only minutes in human time, she walked back into the neonatal ward as though nothing had changed. But she had changed. The universe had changed. She looked at the infants sleeping in their tiny cribs and smiled. Then she began to sing. And somewhere, light years away, entire worlds slept more peacefully. For the galaxy had been calmed not by weapons or treaties, but by the softest force known to any world. A human lullaby.